Well, welcome back. We're going to dig a little more deeply into the first two, the 100% situations, which is 100% online, 100% in person, and talk about some of the nuances and trade-offs. As I've practiced it, I found that trying to pack all four into a video is just not, it'd be too long for us. So we'll keep it short. We'll do the two 100%. The first one, as I mentioned, was to stay the course, 100% online. We're already got this solved. We're already good at it. I've shared the results. When I talked about 12.9 million, that is what our members shared in the Triangle region in 2019. 2020, 24.3 million shared by our members. So not quite double, but pretty close to it. Many members had their best years ever. Others did not. It's not consistent across the board. There's bigger things outside than just BNI, but it is a factor in your business success, in your marketing success, in your referral marketing process. So let's talk about it. And like I say, the big thing is for this is there's no reason to rush. This is working. This is fine. We've got it solved. Some issues, and we'll talk about the issues. It's not all, whatever you want to call good stuff. It's some trade-offs in there, but the first is that it works. There's some things that you may not have considered that can also work and are working in other chapters and other regions in the country. First of all, visitors can come from anywhere and have. On Wednesday, I was in Florida for a chapter, and on Thursday, one of those people came to Durham with me. One of my directors, he's got a product that's available in England, so he's been to some of the London chapters. And interestingly enough, when he was in a London meeting, the person who was the president of the chapter actually has people back in his hometown in North Carolina. So it's pretty good opportunities. It's also something else to think about. It's still one person per profession, but you got a situation where you might have a payroll provider that's in Boston. All their clients are in Raleigh. They could conceivably be a member in your chapter. Now, your chapter has the ability to say yes or no. It's not going to be practical, obviously, for that guy to fly down from Boston every day or every week rather than fly back, although future technology, who knows what's possible. But for now, that's probably not likely. So they would have to be in the online setting. The challenge is, and this is where we would work with you to make it happen, your chapter would work with it, is we'd have to teach that person to refer business to the local chiropractor, local auto body shop, et cetera, the bakery, things like that. I think that's very doable because they have clients here and referral partners here. So that is one aspect of it. I think it's a plus, but again, it's not a plus. You have to even play that tune. You don't like chickpeas on the buffet table, don't eat them. So it's not something you would have to do, but it is something that's available to you. Another pro, and this comes wrapped with a little bit of issues, is your tradespeople can be on the job site while they're in the meeting. Now, they have to be paying attention. They have to be taking notes and things like that. We'll talk about that. But I've been on the roofs with people in their 10-minute presentation, in the crawl spaces, walking the home inspection, a lot of things that are there. Also, they're on the job site. If they arrive, say, 20 minutes before your meeting, get their crews going, and those crews know, don't bother this guy for 90 minutes. And realistically, I think most of our meetings run less than 90 minutes anyway online. But whenever I start chapters, I tell people, even though we're finished in 65, 75 minutes, plan on 90, because that's really what it's going to be. No matter how big your chapter is, it's going to be 90 minutes or less. So during that time, they have to be plugged in. And there's ways you can test that. I can ask a direct question through chat. If I don't get a response, it's a concern. I can put out a question to everybody, and people would just put a reaction up there. And if I don't see a reaction from the person that's the tradesperson, it's an opportunity for conversation. Realistically, your best toggle in that is teachable moments, trainable moments, give a warning perhaps, and then just run the attendance as normal. So they left early, they arrived late, they're not there at all, whatever. So I think it's pretty straightforward on that. Another big pro is the ease of inviting. As I mentioned, I can have people from all over the country come and they can actually meet you. It could be really powerful. So very valuable to learn that. It's a great thing to also learn from your counterparts in other parts of the country, what they're doing with your industry that you could possibly learn and use here. There's two big cons. The first one is, I talked about the caveat of tradespeople. That's a sort of a con, but it's a dealable one. The second one is really out of control, and that is technology. You got all ready to go in your meeting and the power's out, or the internet's out, or your computer dies, or something along the line. And that's just a factor, just something you want to have. So it's nice to build redundancy in there. If I have a visitor come in every week, They can be my substitute for me, and I can keep trying things. Also, all of our Zoom calls, we can get in online through the computer. We can also go through our phone. So it's not as effective through the phone, but at least it puts you in place and keeps you in a situation where you can listen and help your fellow members, as well as teach them what you're looking for. The third is one that many of our chapters are solved, but not all of them, and that is the human element. So as I say, meetings don't necessarily run for 90 minutes. So a lot of chapters are starting to leave it open, networking at the end, and that's really powerful. It's a great time to catch up with your visitors. You know, your member said something in their 60 seconds. You got some questions about it. It's great to do it while it's fresh in mind. Great to do breakout rooms there. What I like to do is set up a couple breakout rooms and let the people select themselves. So, and I would ask them what they want to call themselves. So we might have our real estate people here, our business to business people there, our West Durham people here, whatever, working on churches here. You can set that up however it makes sense, and people can let themselves in and out of the rooms as they go. It's also a great way to do in the open networking, because it's not as effective to have one person talking and 40 people listening, but if you can do breakout rooms, then you can really get some leverage inside. It's really good to take your visitors into a breakout room. You can let them know what to expect as far as the meeting flow, teach them about how to put their contact information in the chat, how to mute and unmute, and go forward from there. So that's pretty much it. That's the 100% online. The 100% in person, we'll look at that in a little more depth. And so we've done that in the past, obviously, but now it's got the nuances of the CDC guidelines and things like that. We need to stay socially distant. As far as I know, it's still 6 feet. There's been some talk of 3 feet, whatever it is. There's also the consideration of the vaccine. You have the vaccine, that's great. That doesn't make you immune, and it doesn't make it impossible for you to pass it to somebody, right? It just means with the vaccine, you're not going to be going to the hospital. You're not going to be passing away. You're protected from that, but you can still pass it on to people. So we have to stay socially distant. In order to be in person, let's go with the distance side. So back in May, I took a chapter 25 and gave them 5 visitors mentally, and then I laid out the space. So you'd be 1 foot in from the wall, 6 foot to the next member, 6 foot, 6 foot. So you can do it 6 by 6, 6 by 5, 5 by 6, different variations inside there to be in that process. Basically, a chapter 25 would be in the size of a regulation tennis court, which is pretty big. And so here we are in this regulation tennis court, all wearing masks, and you're at the far service line trying to teach me how to help you. So it's an awkward process. I don't know if it's really the best thing to do. Sorry about that technical issue there. So I don't know if it's really the best thing to do as far as that. I'd probably wait. There's no rush. I'd probably stay on line until I get in line in a real sensible process. Let's say it goes to 3 feet. Well, now they're in a much smaller space, but 3 feet is 3 feet. So I measured my dining room table. My dining room table is 3 feet. So if I'm across from you, we are 3 foot apart. That's great, as long as none of us are leaning in. If I'm encroaching, you've got to back up. If we're both encroaching, we're putting ourselves at risk. So even when there's a 3 feet, every member should have a clipboard. They should print the agenda themselves, bring it in, bring their own pen, take notes, bring your own clipboard. I would put my name on it so it doesn't get lost. And I would keep that with me the whole time. I'd probably clean it when I got home and things like that. So things to consider as far as that. In order to be in person, everyone will have to sign a waiver. Now, the waiver's already written. I wrote it back in November, got approved by the attorneys in November. And really at that point, I thought we had a chance of getting out, but we didn't. But on Monday, I ran it past the attorneys again. They said it's fine. I thought maybe the vaccine would make a difference. It doesn't. So that waiver comes out. And you could think about it like when I played ball in school, my parents signed a waiver. And the waiver basically said the coaches are going to do all they can to protect your kids. But these are youngsters with bats and balls, and they're running and crashing into each other. Things could possibly happen. It's the same as this. We can't see that virus. We don't know if we have it. If we have it, we don't know if we're passing it, we know if we're receiving it. So you could have just picked it up in the parking lot coming on in. Anything's possible, right? So the waiver protects all of that. You really want to be on your best behavior. There's going to be no pens passing around and being shared, no paper being passed around and being shared, no business cards. If you've got food, it's going to be in to-go containers. That's much safer. So whatever the CDC guidelines have. So I'm trying to look and say, oh yes, I didn't want to miss this. So most places you go, your temperature is taken when you walked in. We're going to do that in this region as well. So the way that'll happen is I will acquire all those temperature gauges, one per chapter, one per core group. When they want to go in person, I'll get the batteries in there. I'll get it to you somehow. We'll figure out how to make that handoff. But I'm just buying one. So, if you leave in your wife's car, your chapter cannot meet that particular week. They got to go back to online. So you probably want to have a backup. Now, in many cases, your venue will have the temperature, and that's fine too. Really doesn't matter, but it has to be done for everybody's protection. So that is the 100% in person. 100% online, 100% in person. To do this, your chapter has to be unanimous, all agree to it, and the regular attendance applies. So if we're all online, if we're not, even our line goes down, we're marked absent, we have to deal with that kind of stuff. If we're all in person, somebody doesn't show up, attendance like it's always been. So that's pretty much it for those two. I'm going to go to the hybrids next, and we'll talk about that in the next video. Thank you so much for your time and attention.